All right, Jeff Tsai from Forte, one last video in this series. So we've gone through, I think, hopefully a nice progression for an audience of hopefully all levels, right? So definitely for folks who are students at Forte, past a few videos have given you some good stuff that you can see and listen to remind yourselves of what basic attacks are, what basic defenses are, and how to coordinate the blade work and the footwork together so that you can move around your opponent and forward and backward from your opponent while you're both doing attacks and defenses. Okay, so everything up to this point has been kind of at a more sort of like clinical drill level, but the drill that we've started to introduce already really was kind of designed in order to be able to escalate pretty much steadily all the way through to basically like full sparring. Like you should be able to kind of take the basics of this drill and just add layers of steady complexity to the point where you're basically just fencing and sparring, right? So it's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to actually do it. So what we're going to do is kind of set up like the very general idea of this framework of what the Frequens Motus drill is. And so it goes like this, right? So we're going to have two fencers. And often I like doing this with three people. There's a third person that will just kind of rotate in with those two people, but that third person is there to actually act as a coach. So keep that in mind. But you can do this with two people. One person's going to be doing an attack roll. One person's going to be doing a defending roll. Yeah, we can get to that for sure. But to start simple, you're going to recognize Brandon just kind of doing the basic attacks and footwork that he was doing in the earlier videos, or that I was doing as the attacker. And I think you'll start seeing from me more complexity in terms of like what are all the different defenses you can do. So you'll see some static stuff, but probably more dynamic, where I'm more often than not actually in movement as opposed to coming to a stop, right? So like dynamic, continuous parries, ideally one step per parry, one parry per step. And you'll see crumps, shields, but other things as well, hopefully some spherics, hopefully other things like sweeps upward from below. I think that's an area which is not really emphasized in the written tradition in terms of specific techniques that much, but it is in there. And again, I think some of the mechanics that we've introduced that kind of broaden what you can do actually may very well help quite a bit in terms of making a lot of that stuff like a really more useful tool in people's arsenal. So without further ado, so we're going to start with attacker defender, and as we go, the attacker is going to add more complexity as we go, and eventually to the point where it's just going to look basically like sparring. The other thing I'm going to mention is like he's going to be basically attacking at a very steady cadence. And this is really important because this way it allows the defender to just be able to manage the noise better, right? So in terms of all the things that they're having to deal with, it makes things a lot easier if the person defending at least knows when to expect things to be coming, right? Then they can just worry about spatial, hey, is the attack coming from this angle or that angle? Is it a cut versus a thrust versus a flat? All those things, right? So usually when we do this drill, the last thing that we sort of add for complexity is tempo changes. Okay, so nice and steady from Brandon with increased complexity, and let's just watch what develops with the defenses. Okay, and thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next series, probably on the complexities on a comprehensive look at Krumphau. it can feel kind of weird for one person to just be attacking, one person to just be defending. And honestly, to keep people honest, this makes a big difference as soon as you add this component. When the attacker all of a sudden realizes that when every time that they attack, the defender could throw an attack instead of a defense, right? So I, as the defender, will mostly be just parrying, but every once in a while I will throw an attack, and the attacker really needs to make sure that like they're throwing attacks where they're covered, right? They're covering their lines, which again makes a huge difference to people's behavior. Go ahead and add like the full complexity.